Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for part 3 of the HearthStone Decktacular, where we are about to do math. Alright, let's go ahead and we're going to look at the font size. Make it nice and big, okay? Look, I even say this maths. Here we go, okay? You want to learn a little bit about probability, okay? Now here's the thing. In probability, we write a lot of stuff like this. Alright, 1 divided by 3. Oh, where does this come from? What does this mean? Hold on. Shut up, Hearthstone. Where does 1 over 3 come from? Alright, where does 1 over 3 come from? This means the number of choices that we have. Right? The number of choices that we have. And this is how many different versions of the choice we're asking about is. So for instance, let's say I have 3 cards, a red, a blue, a green card. There's 3 cards, and I'm asking what's the chance of getting the blue card? There's 1 of those options out of the 3 total possible options, right? Straightforward, very simple, right? And so similarly, if I had 2 red cards, a green card, and a blue card, 4 total cards, there would be 2 blue cards, 1 green card, 1 red card. Therefore, the probability of drawing a blue card is 2 out of 4. And what's very important is that these are all the equal versions, right? So for instance, there are 2 blue cards, 1 green, 1 red. 2 blue, 1 green, 1 red. There's 2 blue choices. It is actually more likely to draw a blue card because there are simply more incidences of it actually happening. And of course, we're probably going to see the viewership drop in a moment. Let's go ahead and let's increase the font. All right, let's increase the font. We're going to go size 72, man. We're fucking crazy, right? We're fucking crazy. We're going crazy with these probabilities. Okay. Now this is very basic, and there's something that I think is just a good rule of thumb when you're dealing with probability, which is that and means multiply, or means add. So for instance, in this example where I have a red, a blue, a green card, I have 3 cards. What's the probability of drawing a blue card? 1 out of 3. What about if I got to draw a blue? What about drawing a blue card or a red card? Right? There's a 1/3 chance of getting the blue card. There's a 1/3 chance of getting the green card, and this is just a rule of thumb, right? And there are situations which does not actually work, right? Situations which does not actually function. It's just a good rule of thumb, right? For any of you non-math folk, right? Whereas if, say, I have 2 dice, right? Let's do a 6-sided dice, right? 1 out of 6 for each of the sides. What's the probability of rolling a 1 and a 1? Snake eyes, right? Or if you're playing craps, man, fucking come on, let's go for a hard 2, right? I need a 2 and a 2, which makes sense. It's 1 out of 6 on the first dice, and then there's 6 possibilities for the second die. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and only 1 of those second choices makes it work. So this is kind of why it's and, right? This is kind of why it's and. This is kind of why it's and. Now here's something that fucks people, right? Ready to get fucked in the head by math and by probability, right? Everything I've done is very straightforward. Let's not forget something that almost everyone is ignoring because they're like, that's so obvious, right? I'm going to talk about something everyone's ignoring, which is that this bottom one is the number of possible choices. It's the denominator. Make it even simpler for you. This is the number of possible choices. This is the choice that we're asking about. And it's very important that we note that these are all equally probable. Right? There's 6 equally probable choices on a 6-sided die. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And only one of them is the one we're after, which is what if he rolls a 2, for instance. Let me ask you something. What's the probability if I roll 2 dice that the sum of them is 4? Right? What are the ways that you can get 4? Right? What are the ways that you can get 4? 2 plus 2, 1 plus 3. Seems like we're done, right? It seems like we're done, right? No, we're not done. This is the part that fucks your head. This is a different option. Very, very important that you note this. Very, very, very important that you note this, right? 1 plus 3 is different than 3 plus 1. Why is that? I've heard people say, why? Why are you considering these as two different options? Why are you considering these as two different options? Well, it's because, let's say we had a red dice and a blue dice, right? A red dice and a blue dice. And I wanted to know what the probability, if I rolled the two of them, the red dice number plus the blue dice number equals 4. This is our red dice column, and this is our blue dice column, right? You'll notice that a red 1 and a blue 3 is completely different from a red 3 and a blue 1. Isn't that easy? Isn't that easy? Isn't that clear? Here's what a lot of amateur fucking folks do a lot is they go, oh, it's 2 plus 2, and 1 over 3. That's two choices out of, I don't know, 12 possibilities, because it can sum to, oops, excuse me, I'm fucking up. They can sum to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 11, or 12, excuse me. Yes, there's 11 possibilities, right? Like, I've seen people do this because they say it's 2 plus 2 over 1 plus 3, and there's these 11 possibilities. 11 possible sums. I fucking did it. But that's not right. Right. Gavin asked a great question. Wouldn't there be another 2 plus 2 probability? Is there? If I roll a red 2 and a blue 2, is there another way to do that? Is there another 2 plus 2? No, there's fucking not. There's not. Red 2 and blue 2 is the same as blue 2 and red 2, right? We're asking about that. See, this is the thing that fucks with people, is that, you know, if I just say a regular dice and I go 1 out of 6, right? The number of different possibilities of the top. 1 plus 3 is different than 3 plus 1, but 2 plus 2 is not different from 2 plus 2. See what I'm saying? All right, there's only one 2 plus 2. Is that clear? Okay, so let's ask ourselves about this. What's the probability of rolling something that sums to 4? Something that sums to 4. First, let's figure out the numerator. Boom, we just did it. It's 3. Right? Because we have 2 plus 2, we have 1 plus 3, and we have 3 plus 1. Cool, right? 3, cool, right? 3, there's 3. There's 3 possibilities. That's it. That's all there is to it. That's all there is to it, right? Because I'm counting 3. There are 3 different ways to sum to 4, period. What's the denominator? How many different sums are there? How many different sums are there? How many different sums are there? You tell me. What's the denominator here? What's the denominator here, man? What's the denominator? Don't worry, there's not a test coming up, man. We're just having fun. What's the denominator? How many different ways are there for 6 and 6 to sum together? Excuse me, for 2 dice to sum together. There's only one way for 6 and 6 to sum together. Motherfucker. It's 36. There's 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6. There's 6 choices. There's 2 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6. There's 3 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6. I'm listing them out, right? So here's the thing. I'm not doing a terribly large amount of math here, right? I'm not multiplying and adding things together. I'm listing shit out. Where did I get this number from? I got it from listing out 2 plus 2, 1 plus 3, and 3 plus 1. I literally listed them out. How did I get this 36 on the bottom? I did 1 plus 1, 1 plus 2, 1 plus 3, 1 plus 4, 1 plus 5, 1 plus 6, and then I did it again, and I went, okay, 2 plus 1. Oh, shit. 2 plus 2. 2 plus 3. I literally listed them out, and I counted that there are 36 of them. right? Then this is where I want to pause and be like, did I do this correctly? Yeah, no, seems correct. And so when we ask ourselves the probability questions of before, I take a moment to stop and really think, because it's very easy for bullshit to just fall out of a mouth. It's so easy for someone to just be like, you know what? I think that it's this times that and times this and times all this shit, and it's just fucking wrong. And let me show you something. I'm going to list the problem right here. This is too much font. Okay? This is not enough font. This is not nearly enough font. Size 48. Let's get that word rep going. I have 2 children. One of them is a girl. What's the probability the other one is also a girl? Here's the problem statement, right? Here's the problem statement. 2 children. One of them is a girl. What's the probability that the other one is a girl? Just type your answer. Just type your answer. The correct answer is one of the last things that people guess. But what's the correct answer? What's the correct answer? I have 2 children. One of them is a girl. What's the probability that the other one is a girl? I'm going to tell you right now, it's not 50%, and it is not 25%. It is not 50%, it is not 25%. It is neither of those. Isn't that interesting? And we're going to do that in the exact same way. We're going to compute this. This is one of the most famous math problems in all of math, as a beautiful example of how human intuition is wrong. And why is math important? Because it forces you to rigorously step through something and understand every step of the process. Let's go through it, okay? Let's go through it. Okay. Now, again, what's the probability I roll an even number on a dice? Well, there's 3 even numbers on a dice, and there are 6 sides to a dice, and thus I get the number 3 divided by 6. Right? Don't forget that this is what we were just doing before I wrote this thing on here. So let's list them off. Right? What are the possibilities? Let's list the possibilities of 2 kids. Boy, boy, girl, girl, boy, girl, girl, boy. The first thing that I want to note is that boy, boy and girl, girl are obviously different. But what about boy, girl, and girl, boy? Isn't that the same? This is a very common question. Aren't these the same? Fuck no, they're not. And we'll make it a little more clear by saying one of the kids is older. If we pretend one of the kids is older, this is the oldest is the boy and the youngest is the boy. The oldest is the girl and the youngest is a girl. The oldest is a boy and the youngest is the girl, or the oldest is a girl and the youngest is a boy, right? These are not the same. These are 2 different things. And if you don't believe me, get 2 coins. Get 2 coins and flip them and write down if it's double heads, double tails, or one's a head and one's a tail, and just record. And what you will get is that this happens 25% of the time, this happens 20% of the time, and that these 2, that one being a head and one being a tail, happens about 50% of the time. That's what you'll find out. The reason that these 2 are different, the way to think of it is, the reason these 2 are different is you think of it as one of them is a boy who's older, and this one is one of them a boy who's younger. Is that clear? Is that clear? This is the hard part of the problem, is understanding that boy girl is different from girl boy. Is that clear? Boy girl is different than girl boy. Is that clear? Right? Boy girl is different from girl boy. And this is why I love the idea of talking about colors. You can say, I have 2, these are the ones that have blue eyes, these are the ones that have green eyes. So I could have a blue-eyed boy or a green-eyed boy. And a green-eyed girl and a blue-eyed girl. And the reason that it has to stay the same is if you don't know the color of their eyes, it can't change the probability. It can't change the probability. And that's the important thing to note, is that I'm using the example, this one's older, this is an older boy, this is a younger boy. And a lot of people will ask, but what if I don't know their age? It can't change the probability of what the mother births if you don't know the age. It can't change the probability of who the mother's birthing if you don't know the color of the eyes, right? And see, like, and I also see in chat, well, that's not a probability problem, that's a semantic problem. It is not that. It is not a semantic problem. This is why this fucks with people, right? So I'm just listing the possibilities of two kids, and again, boy, boy, girl, girl, boy, girl, girl, boy. This has been absolutely precise with zero loss of information, period, in the slightest. Just straight up, no loss of information here. So right now, let me ask you, if I say right now, what's the probability of having two girls? You tell me. If I have two kids, what's the chance that both are girls? Let's ask this. Well, there's one way to have two girls. Out of how many options? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 out of 4. Holy shit, covering it up. 1 out of 4. Right? If I have two kids, what's the chance that both are girls? Right? It's 1 out of 4. Let me actually do it like this. Just save myself a little room. Okay? Okay, if I have two kids, what's the chance both are girls? 1 out of 4. How do I get this? 1 out of 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I said I have two children and one of them is a girl. So this one can't be possible. We already have established that one of them is a girl. So the answer to this question, if one of them is a girl, what's the probability the other one is also a girl? There's one way to have two girls, and there's 1, 2, 3 options, 1/3. Boom. Done, okay? Cool. Done. I'm fucking done. And here's the thing that fucks with people a lot, is that they learn that, like, if half the things do it, then it's like 50%. You can multiply and you can divide and you can add and all this shit. But you gotta remember that here's what a probability is. It's number of ways to have the thing I'm looking for divided by number of total things. That's it. Right? Number of ways to have the thing I'm looking for, two girls, divided by the number of total things. 1, 2, 3. That's 1 out of 3. Period. This is the thing. This is the thing that just ruins people's brains. This ruins people's brains, because they'll say things like, no, it's a trick question because you're not leaving information out. See, if I said I have two children, the first one is a girl, what's the probability the second one is a girl? Well, it's 50%, because there's two ways to have a second kid, boy and girl. Right? But if I say I have two children, one of them is a girl, what's the probability the other one is a girl? You don't know if it's the first one was the girl or the second one is the girl, and this is why things get fucked. This is how the brain gets totally ruined. And this is the thing, is that this is not in unclear wording. This is not a trick question. This is not a, haha, I pulled a fast one on you. This is worded exactly correctly. I have two children, one of them is a girl, what's the probability the other one is a girl? This is not a brain teaser. This is not like a surprise. One of them is actually a table. I don't have 2 children. You need to learn riddles better, because that's the thing I hate about riddles. Right? I have 2 children. One of them is a girl. It was probably the other one is a girl. Very precise question. Very precise question. And so the reason that I like this example is that we were talking about the Doomsayer. The Doomsayer example, which is if I summon Onyxia, where W is a whelp and O equals Onyxia. This is the sort of question where there's 6 whelps, and if whelps get evolved, 72 out of 73, or there are 73 2-mana minions. One is a Doomsayer. What's the probability that one of the evolved whelps is a Doomsayer? Like this is the problem that we were asking in chat. This is the problem that we were asking in chat, right? So if I do the math here, one of the best ways to solve probabilistic questions is to do the opposite. It's to say, like, okay, what's the chance of it not being a Doomsayer? It's 72 divided by 73 for the first whelp. 72 divided by 73 for the second whelp. Right, this is the chance that it's not a Doomsayer. For the first one, 72 out of 73 times, it's not a Doomsayer. And if the first one isn't a Doomsayer, what's the chance that the second whelp is not a Doomsayer? Well, it's that. And what's the chance that, and we have that all of these are not Doomsayers? What's this chance? And it equals some number that's equals approximately, what is it, like 92%. 92% of the time you don't have a Doomsayer, or in other words, 8% of the time. About 8% of the time. You summon a Doomsayer, which is, I think 1 out of 12-ish. Did I do my math right? Yeah, that sounds right. Bang. So let's talk about some interesting math that you could do to make your Hearthstone experience better. Like, let's say what's a really interesting question that we could possibly ask? Really easy one. I put 2 copies of a key card in my deck. What's the probability I draw it in the first X cards? I'm running a crazy Miracle Rogue. I need to get a Gadgets and Auctioneer to get this crazy thing out. Right? That's what I need. That's what I need. What's the probability I draw it in the first X cards? Oh, and there's Utori saying, Sean, calculate Miracle Rogue draw with Gadgets in. Okay, so let's think about this. Let me think about it for a moment. I'm going to think I put 2 copies of a key card in my deck with the probability I draw it in the first X cards. I think we know, right? There's an easy way to do it and there's a hard way to do it. We're going to do the easy thing that we just said, right? What's the chance I don't draw it? Right? This is going to be painful, but it's 28 out of 30. The first card I draw, what if it's not a Gadgets in? Times 27 out of 29 times 26 out of 28 times 25. Oh, I'm not explaining this. What's the chance I don't draw it in the very first one? What's the chance I don't draw it in the very first one? 28 of the cards are not a Gadgets and Auctioneer. 30 of them, or there's 30 possibilities, 20 of them are not, so it's 28 out of 30. But if I've drawn the first card was probably the second card also is not a Gadgetzan Auctioneer. Well, there's only 29 cards left in the deck because I've already drawn one. And if the first one was not a Gadgetzan, there's still 2 Gadgetzans in there, 27 out of 29. And then we can sort of do the same thing multiple times in a row to get something. Well, something like this. Here's your starting hand of 3. This is a chance of not getting the Gadgets in your starting hand of 3 times 25 out of 27. So let me go ahead and take this. Let me copy it into Google. What's the chance that you don't get it in the first 4 cards? Chance that you don't get it in the first 4 cards? Come on, compute it, Google, you asshole. That's crazy. That is a crazy number. 25% of the time, you can get a Gadgetzan in your first hand. Isn't that insane? Isn't that insane? 25% of the time. This is where I go, am I fucking something up? Am I fucking something up? So this means 25, what if it's in the first 4 cards, it's 25%. Holy fucking shit. I can get it a quarter of the time. What if I up it to the first 10 cards? Ooh. Now this is, if you're playing a rogue, you have a lot of card draws. This is probably by turn 6 or so that you can actually have drawn the first, no, earlier than that, turn 4 to 5. You can have drawn the first 10 cards of your deck. Because you start out with 3 to 4 of them on your very first turn, and then on turns 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you're drawing a single card at a time. So let's do this. This is 4 divided by 26. Now, if you've ever seen ... in a math textbook, this means just keep doing the same shit. And then we're going to eventually arrive at 18 out of, or 19 out of 21. Right, because we've drawn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cards. All right, let's go ahead and compute that. Let's compute that, which is 24 divided by 26, which is then multiplied by 23 divided by 25, which is then multiplied by 22 divided by 24, which is then multiplied by 21 divided by 23, which is then multiplied by 20 divided by 22, which is then multiplied by 19 out of 21 to give a probability of... Come on, Google, do your shit. That's insane. That's insane. Which is about 44%. Right? So, that means about 56% of the time, I will draw that key thing that I want. Isn't that great? Isn't that awesome? Isn't this awesome? Isn't this tight? This is not even considering a mulligan either. This is not even considering a mulligan. I wonder how you compute the mulligan. So UD 106, what's the probability of you getting a Gadgetzan in your opening hand if you're hard mulliganing for it? So here's where we have to avoid double counting. So first, I'm going to assume 3 cards in your hand. This is the probability of going first. So here's what the formula is, which is probability of draw. This is a great question. I actually need to decrease the font size. I actually have the solution for this. If I have 2 Gadgetzan Auctioneers in my deck and I want to hard mulligan to draw it, what's the probability of drawing it in the first 10 cards? We can even do this, because it doesn't matter. okay? I'm going to break this probability into two, which is probability of drawing it in first three cards. If it's in my opening hand, I'm done, right? I'm instantly done. So I can compute the probability of drawing the first three cards, or probability of drawing it when I mulligan and then just draw normally. Or mulligan and try to draw it. Cool. So let's do the first one. Probability of drawing it in first three cards. Okay, so what is that? That's 1 minus, we already computed this. Fuck, can't type. It's me doing the opposite of not drawing it. So 28 over 30 times 27 over 29 times 26 over 28. And we computed that to be about 25%. 25% of the time, I just get it right away. Cool. So what I'm going to do is our very first number is 25%. This is 25%. I'm going to do probability of drawing it in the first. What should X be? Let's just call it 10 cards, because we did this. Which is 1 minus 28 over 30 times 27 over 29 times, and then we just keep doing that shit until we get 19 over 21, which, as it turns out, is approximately, wait, no, that's approximately 56% of the time. And here's the little thing. Oh, that 25% of the time was 4 cards at Rocket Ninja? Am I doing something wrong? Am I just misremembering what we computed? Am I miscomputing? I thought this was 25%. Let me just look it up real fast on Google. No, you're correct. You're correct. Sorry, this is 20% of the time. I'm just misremembering what math I previously computed. Yeah. All right. See. 28 over this times 27 or 29 is about 81%. So 100% minus 80% is about 20%, right? Okay, cool. So probably drawing the first 10 cards 56% of the time. Now here's the thing that's a little tricky, is that this is wrong. What I've just typed is wrong. What I've just typed is wrong, because some percentage of the time, 20% of the time, we are going to have it in our starting hand. But would I mulligan then? No. How often am I mulliganing? How often am I mulliganing? This question. How often am I mulliganing? I'm mulliganing 80% of the time. So 80% of the time, I'm going to encounter this 56% probability. Right? Right? There it is. There it is. Right. So again, probability of drawing it in the first 3 cards, 20%. And then in the other 80% of the time, I'm only getting it 56% of the time. Right? Where did this 80% come from? 20% of the time, I had it in my starting hand, so I didn't mulligan. 20% of the time, I don't mulligan because I have the gadgets in. And if I'm not mulliganing if I'm not mulliganing 20% of the time because I already have it, 80% of the time I am mulliganing. If I don't get it, which happens 80% of the time, I'm mulliganing. See where I got the 80 from? This 80 is connected to this 20. For instance, if this was 25%, this would be 75%, right? And that equals some shit. Let's find out what that is. Let's find out what that is, right? 0.2 plus 0.56 times 0.8. That equals 65%. Do we get it? This is good? It's good? Cool. Tight. Sick. Dope. Boss. Neat. Nifty. Fantastic. Wonderful. I'm going to stare at there because I want to make sure I'm not screwing anything up. Because here's the thing. It's very easy to double count or to forget to count something. It's very, very easy to do this. Oh my god, GG points out that this is 6.5 out of 10. Yeah. Isn't that great? So this is why a warrior always has a fiery war axe. The first three probabilities should repeat, right? What do you mean? I'm doing approximates as well, so this might be what's weird. I should actually do I should do Hearth math. I should just do really obscure Hearthstone probabilities around this. Because this is important. Does the mulligan allow the same cards to be redrawn? Yeah, of course. Life alerts says seems wrong. 56% is in the first 10 cards, but 20% includes the first 3 of those. Isn't that interesting? It seems wrong. It's totally right. It's totally correct. It's the correct thing. When you mulligan, the original cards go back in the deck. Yep. Yep. That's correct. I properly accounted for that here. This is after I've hard mulliganed my entire hands. After I've hard mulliganed. After I've hard mulliganed. Isn't this interesting? Because there's things that just fuck with your brain. How do I get to add them together? Because there is zero overlap between these probabilities and these probabilities. Probability, here's one of the most important ways to avoid double counting is to have completely separate partitions of the space. Probability of drawing it in the first 3 cards. So this is the probability. I mean, I can write this another way. Probability of getting Gadget Zen without a mulligan, or probability of getting Gadget Zen with a mulligan. So it's either this or it's this. If you mulligan them, you can't draw the mulligan phase out. You can draw their copies, but not them. Wait, what? You can draw the same thing that you mulligan, right? Or do you guaranteed never get that? There's too many questions in chat I'm not following. Cards mulliganed away are not added back to the pool for possible replacements. Wait, really? No, you can... Wait, you can draw the same things you mulligan. Right? Because I've, like, mulliganed a legendary and gotten the legendary back. Huh. Huh. That was in beta. That has changed. Okay, interesting. Here's a great question from Pinfeldorf. If how many 1-drops do I need in my deck for me to have an 80% chance to have one in my opening hand? Oops. How many 1-drops do I need in my deck to guarantee having one in my opening hand? So first of all, let's let's assume an opening hand size of 4. Now, where am I getting... Excuse me. 3. Where am I getting 3 from? Literally, your turn 1 and you're looking at those 3 cards. Right? And I can do turn 2 if you, or excuse me, if you start second by just making this number 4. Cool, right? So what we would do is we would say, get it an opening hand, or get with mulligan. And this one is super, super damn easy. We can just literally compute it by saying try. Let's say you try 2 1-drops. So that's going to be 1 minus 28 over 30 times 29, 27 over 29. I mean, like, there's so much card math is just like that. 20 over 30 times 27 over 29. Okay. Oops. Times 26 over 28. Excuse me. I only did 2 because I'm derping. Equals about 80%, 20%. And then if you get it with the mulligan, it's the same thing again. So if we try 2 drops, this means that it's 20% plus another 80% of the time. You're also trying to shoot for another 20% shot, which is whatever that is. 0.2 times 0.8 times 0.2. Oops. I'm gonna do this fast because I'm like way overboard. So if you're hard mulliganing for 1-drops, right? Okay, what if it try 4 1-drops? Which is this thing. And we just add some more terms. Oh, wait, no. I'm doing this wrong. 26 over 30, right? Because there's 4 possible opening things. Then we do 25 divided by 29. And then we do 24 divided by 28. Let's find out what that number is. Google, help me. Pasting it into the search bar, because that's awesome. And this is going to be about 36%. So then what we compute is we compute 36% of the time it's in my opening hand, and the other 64% of the time I mulligan, also for a 36% chance that I'm going to get it. And whatever the heck this is, 59%. Isn't that awesome? Isn't this awesome? Let's try 7 1-drops for sexiness. 1 minus 23 over 30 times 22 over 29 times 21 over 28. Google, cut and paste. Let me know how that is. Let me know how that is. Hey, this gives you a 56% chance of getting that in your opening hand. So what that means is that we have 56% chance of getting it in our opening hand pre-mulligan. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add on the remaining 44% of the time. We're still shooting for a 56% chance of drawing it. A $56 chance of drawing it. And there you go. Isn't that awesome? Oh, I'm covering it. 80%. So it's 9. I've been doing Hearth math for a while, and that was fun. That was fun doing Hearth math. Don't save that. I don't need that shit. Close my HearthStone. I can't believe I just did a show about me doing math in a notepad. It's great. Isn't that great? We should do some more math. We should ask some really obscure, confusing questions, probabilistically. We should try to compute them. I think it's fun. Jeez, that was fun. That was fun, man. I gotta go do a play test, so I'm just gonna abruptly turn this shit off. That was awesome. Bye, guys.